Morning, Trainiacs. We got a good endurance adventure today. Come on. We just did a pretty chill Team Trainiac Zwift ride that we're doing every Thursday. Open to all. And right now is the time that you want to join because workouts are still pretty chill. I ended up asking the group what they felt about PTO World Championship at Challenge Daytona, and everyone just kind of went nuts. It is probably some of the best race coverage that I've ever seen, from the sounds of it, a lot of people have ever seen. I think it's gonna really change the game. I'm not sure exactly how, but I got some thoughts, and we're gonna get the CEO of Challenge North America, Bill Christie, on the podcast and talk about that. Could be big. And ride. Save that mother. What I've been doing lately over the past month or so is all my key rides, like anything that has specific intervals or cadence, are done on Zwift. And I love it for that because you just put it in erg mode, program the workout, and do it. And then I especially love being able to do that with the team. So every Thursday, it's on all the Zwift events. You can just scroll and look for it in events, open to everyone. It's called something like Team Trainiac Group Ride with Triathlon Taren. You can find it. That's good because we spend most of the time chatting and hanging out, and it makes the suffering a little bit easier. And then I'm doing the rest of the rides on the fat bike right now. Just all the general rides, like the go out for an hour and just spin, or 2 hours on the weekend for a little bit of endurance where there's no specific intervals. Fat bike, because I like that mixture of inside and outside, just so Zwift doesn't get old and so the routes that I take out there don't get old. Hey guys, I'm back. So to be perfectly honest with you, I've been supportive of PTO, but also fairly skeptical because we've seen things like this attempt to happen in triathlon and other sports all the time, and frankly, it's never worked. Now, of course, there's been a lot of hoopla about the PTO. Basically, all professional triathletes have got on board and started supporting the PTO, but of course they're going to do that because there's, I think it's $2.5 million now, or maybe a little bit more, has been pumped into triathlon, and for the pros, it's basically free money. And particularly in the case of Challenge Daytona, it was totally free money. You show up, and as long as you finish, you get $2,500, all the way up to $100,000. And it's been the only game in town in 2020. So is all of this hoopla and hype indicative of it being that great a thing, or is it just because it's one of the only things in 2020 that has money in it for pros? Historically, I have thought that. Ooh, the oats are ready. I'm back on a very serious overnight oats kick. I want to do this after a workout to get the carbs in, and then I put some protein powder in. I cook them the night before, actually several nights before, about 5 at a time, and then I let them sit in the fridge so that they turn to a resistant starch, which is really good for the stomach. And in it, I put that oats, I put some protein powder, but then I also have recently added chia seeds and psyllium husk fiber to help with cholesterol and hormone management and weight management and satiety and all kinds of good things. Plus, it just looks like a sloppy, delicious mess, right? So now PTO's entire contention is that if they do really good race coverage, what's going to happen is more eyeballs are going to come onto the sport, and those more eyeballs are going to allow them to go to sponsors that are outside of the sport instead of the small dollars that are in triathlon. By as much as I love them, like the Rokas and the Garmins and the Tacks of the world, they don't have the pockets of the Mercedes-Benz, the American Expresses, those types of companies that sponsor golf tournaments. So they have been going at the golf model. Now, my whole belief, however, in this is that we're not golf for two main reasons. The first thing is that golf, I believe the numbers are about 60 to 80 million total regular golfers all around the world. And there are a lot of people who also watch golf who don't do golf. So the audience for it is in the hundreds of millions. Triathlon is more like at most 4 million around the world. And in a lot of cases, those people aren't even real rabid triathletes. The second thing is that I don't think you're going to end up with a whole lot of non-triathletes that are actually watching triathlon in the same way that non-golfers or non-curlers watch golf and curling, because the reason for that is, like, dopamine wise, what's happening is in golf and in curling, there's a payoff to watching it every 15 seconds. You see somebody take a swing or slide out of the hack, and every 15 to 20 seconds you see if they've made the shot or not. From a video producing standpoint, that is a really, really big thing, because you need to keep having people engaged every few seconds or they're going to tune out. How are you going to do that when somebody is riding in the same position with basically the same setting around them for 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours? It's pretty tough. But actually seeing Challenge Daytona changed a lot of that for me. And the reason, I think, is because they brought the NASCAR format of covering a race to triathlon. NASCAR is really the same thing. You're just going around and around and around in circles. Nothing's really changing besides a little bit of placement here and there. It's exactly the same thing that happened and happens in triathlon. And you know what? NASCAR gets millions of eyeballs. So bringing that to triathlon, it worked. It really worked. And when I put the call out to people on the Zwift ride about what they thought of the race, they said that, yeah, it got them excited for Challenge. Yeah, it got them excited for PTO, that Ironman should probably take note and be a little bit afraid. But more than anything, it just got them excited again, excited for endurance sports. And in 2020, that's saying a lot. So we're going to get Bill Christie onto the podcast, and I'm going to share a couple of the highlights with you here in a second. I think they're going to make some waves. Also, I get such a kick out of being able to do that. I don't know why. Good day. First off, slow
Now we are
clap.
recording, Bill.
Slow clap on the event.
Oh,
Holy
man.
smokes.
You guys are gracious.
The broadcast, I mean, the event itself looked good, but boy, did you guys nail that broadcast for the first time out. I mean, obviously with the resources you had for NASCAR at the track, that made it a lot easier, and there was that experience there. But everything from, the camera angles to
the tracker on the side of the
Yep.
TV, letting you know where
The leaderboard,
everyone
yeah.
was in the
Yep.
in the top 20, the differential between first and 17th, the split.
Yeah.
That is an enormous production. That's an NFL level production that you put together.
Or maybe a NASCAR level
Or a
production.
NASCAR level. That'd be a better way to say it.
I was going to say, welcome to NASCAR Productions, you guys. That's what they do.
How do you take the lessons of what NASCAR has been able to do, and then meanwhile going towards this kind of golf model where in golf they haven't been able to do it in a 2020, well, not even 2020, but
Over the last few
a
years.
post-social media kind of era.
And a post-Tiger era.
So I can't speak to that, but I do think there's some great parallels between NASCAR and where we are today with triathlon. Interestingly enough, NASCAR had what was called an entitlement sponsor. So as you remember, it was the Sprint Cup Series, right? Before that, wow, I mean, I can go back to the Winston Cup Series, Winston cigarettes, right? So I mean, that's a long time ago. I know you guys know that. I'm old, and you look at the correlations there. Now NASCAR has several premier partners, but it is the NASCAR Cup Series. So they changed their business model to adapt to those times. I think that we sort of need to start thinking that way as well in triathlon, and how TV dollars are affected, how ticket sales are affected, how the teams are affected, how the pros are affected, and what those economics are to everybody. And we're going to take a hard look at that. I think that there are some really great correlations and lessons to be learned there. But with regard to viewership and what the product is, again, I think all of us that were hardcore triathletes probably had a pretty good time on Sunday. I know I did watching, but I think tonight's going to tell the tale.
How much effort went into planning how to make it an enjoyable experience to watch? Because something that I've speculated for a while is, we were just talking about golf, that golf is a really quick payoff. But in triathlon, it's really hard to actually make that interesting because it's people on a bike in the aero position for up to 5 hours. So how much did they start planning ahead of time how to actually make it something that was enjoyable to watch? Because it was night and day between that and, say, the Ironman lives.
We went at the live stream product as if it was a live TV product. So the announcers in the booths were talking play-by-play, action by action, going from camera to camera. We were watching penalties, moving the cameras around back and forth, which happens in typical live stream, but not at the speed in which they were doing it here. A big part of that is the number of cameras that are fixed pointed around the stadium. There are hard wirings already.
How many cameras were there, by the way? We were speculating while we were watching, and do you have any idea off the top of your head? Okay.
No, I wish I had that. I don't. But I will tell you that Miami, we will have more than what we had, because there were some shots that added to the storyline that they said, we should have also at the same time been covering this while we were covering this. Things that they pick up as live TV producers that we don't think
like
of,
what?
right? That's what they do. So, there was a point where in the women's race, probably one of my favorite parts was anyhow, she had just gotten into the penalty box, and she was sitting there in the penalty box, and it was a drafting penalty, and she was 4 wide trying to get by 3 other cyclists. And you know that there's enough safety and the protection and all of those rules applied on the drafting. They had to be so many feet wide, and she still received a drafting penalty. You know, I would have liked to have seen that. While we saw it on the men, we had the men 2 and 3 wide at a couple of times. I would like to have seen that one 3 wide or 4. I would like to have seen 4 wide on that one.
And TK, debrief on the podcast with Bill. What's your take on it?
I'm really excited to see what happens for the next challenge race broadcast in Miami in March.
It's true. Like I said, I've been skeptical of PTO and what challenge has been supporting. They've tried to come into North America in the past decade, didn't work. PTO is trying a game that a lot of other people have said they're going to do, throwing money at a sport and saying, well, we're just going to get big sponsors once we get big eyeballs. Talking to Bill, I think they might have a shot. Mm-hmm. So if you want that full podcast, go to the Triathlon Taren podcast, wherever you get your podcast. And and tomorrow we're chatting with Paula Findlay.
Woo, I can't wait.
All Daytona, all the time. We got some heat coming in. And hit the subscribe button below.